Alright, part 3, Michigan artifacts, Israelites in Michigan.
However, at the time when the collection first came out, it was the old
crown. It's a crown, bro. King's crown.
There has been 30 other
Hebrew writings
surfaced.
all over these things.
Soper Savage had nothing to do with
These are being held by a church, BLM, I believe. Let me look.
Languages that are written on it, so it's a little difficult.
I think it's the BLM. It's a Mormon or some kind of Mormon church, and they're waiting for the owner of the church to die so they could destroy these clay tablets.
It's hard to believe these people didn't have some form of language. If they would have probably recorded these tablets. She had already turned the collection.
Look at this.
A little bit of oil in, burn it, flame,
lanterns.
Or used to bludgeon people that, as you consider in Columbus, most likely predate the printing of.
Look, a Bible.
So these tablets are really beautifully done.
From
this slate comes from Northern Michigan.
1500-year-old Bible.
An area where the burial mounds were. This slate is used.
Look, Moses with the tablet.
And so on is still there.
Joshua leading the armies.
And also, you'll see a lot of brass and copper tools and weapons of war in this collection.
Look at that, the Aztec Mayan calendar, the Toltec calendar, but it's a Hebrew calendar. You know that we use circular patterns for calendars. You can find it in Hawaii, you can find it all throughout the Americas. Aztec, Mayans, Toltecs, Hebrews told time in circular patterns.
We're very confident engravers. But the stories that are around here are stories of flood, Noah and his 3 sons.
So all the stories in the Bible is on these tablets. And look at how it's binded. It's binded like a book.
Now here is little print.
Look, print dies like a typewriter. You ever had a typewriter? You had the die pads, and you push the button, it'll hit the paper, and it'll put down the letter. It's like they had an automatic typewriter, and they would type these things onto the tablets. Whoever phonied it up. Nobody phonied this up, bruh. That's how they can justify destroying it.
A lot of these little engravings.
Look, this necklace is fat chains. Why you think you wear fat chains today? This is why.
These are seer stones. I don't know if that's true. This tree and handing it over
look,
to
Adam, Eve, the tree.
Look at this tape. They don't want you to see these. Somebody doesn't want. This is an interesting
one
here.
Look, the Aztec calendar, Mayan calendar.
I don't know what it. Circular calendars have 13 tablets, and we only got the
lunar cycles. Come on, Hawaiians use lunar cycles. Israelites use lunar cycles.
Tablets and a memorizer of all the tablets. Have him translated to determine.
Look, brass plates.
Now, this is being a big stomach, and this is the brass plates. I don't know if it's the brass plates, but these are brass plates, and the writings on them are also Adamic. And we go through all these and show you all of those.
Then that's probably Wayne May. Look him up, Wayne May.
But I think these are tremendously valuable artifacts, and if we could read them,
and they're waiting to destroy this. You know how much they destroyed of your artifacts? I want you to know shit.
They predate the printing of the Bible, like I say, the printing of the Book of Mormon.
Predating the Bible.
Some of these with Adamic on it either had to be written by the Jaredites because they retained
Jaredites. They always talk about the Jaredites.
By the people during Adam's time.
Or Adam's, even older.
What are they doing over here in America?
Well, what are they doing in America? Alright, sorry about that. I get upset. So, alright. you're gonna ask yourself, why don't we know any of this? Why haven't we been told any of this? This guy's crazy. What is he talking about? All these professionals, they never said anything about this. Who is this guy? I understand. So I'm going to explain a little bit of it, because it's much bigger than you believe. Alright, let's get in. Oh, shaka laka laka boom. Alright, so this, ladies and gentlemen, is John Wesley Powell. John Wesley Powell was a U.S. soldier, a geologist, an explorer for the American West, a professor at the Illinois Wesleyan University, a director of major scientific and cultural institutions. He is famous for the 1869 Powell Geographic Expedition, a 3-month river trip down the Green and Colorado rivers, including the first known passage by Europeans through the Grand Canyon. So, he's the first European, to go down the Grand Canyon. That is interesting. Interesting. Like I showed you earlier, Egypt and the Grand Canyon. G.A. Kincaid. They named these tunnels with this archaeological evidence Kincaid's Cave in Grand Canyon National Park. Oh, I'm telling you, all these sites is national parks for a reason, man. Look at this golden artifact to an Egyptian king. Look at this tunnel. Look, it's been bored out by water. Look at all these artifacts mirroring Hindu culture, which was Israelite. The Khmer nation, the Khmer Naga Buddhas. Look at this. This is all in Grand Canyon. That was taken by G.E. Kincaid, who worked for John Powell. Now, before we go back to where he was, this is a story. This is Smithsonian's enigmatic Professor Jordan, linked to 1909 Arizona newspaper article identified. So this is Professor Jordan. Okay, let's read it. Found a system of underground chambers in Grand Canyon filled with Egyptian artifacts sent to the Smithsonian. Oh shit, my water spilled. And Jordan has been said to have never existed, but oddly, he did. In April 1991, meeting of the Society for American Archaeology included a presentation on the discovery of totally unique complex of underground catacombs found at a ruins site in Arizona. The Arizona Daily Sun published a long article on the discovery on April 27, 1991. Dr. Greg Little researcher David Chaldes has been accused of creating the Smithsonian conspiracy, the idea that the Smithsonian Institution has been hiding and withholding evidence that contradicts accepted archaeology history. In 1993, Childress published a widely cited article that included the front page story from an April 1909 issue of the Phoenix Gazette. The article related that Professor Jordan and G.E. Kincaid had found a hidden complex of catacombs filled with Oriental and Egyptian artifacts. So the Oriental is you, is the Israelite. You're the Asian, the Asiatic. The Smithsonian has denied repeatedly that a Professor Jordan. Remember now, we have billions of names to talk about us. Still us. Jordan had ever worked with them and been affiliated with them. They're trying to say that this Professor Jordan never worked with them, but this Gazette article proves they did. The Smithsonian Department of Anthropology has searched its files without finding any mention of a Professor Jordan, Kincaid, or a lost Egyptian civilization in Arizona. So not only are they not owning up to Jordan, but they're not even saying that Kincaid worked for them, which we know he done. They saying they not even find this Egyptian civilization in Arizona. They swept it under the rug. See, G.E. Kincaid, these guys are important, and they don't want you to know. And who is this? Who's they? Right now, they is Smithsonian. And who leads up the Smithsonian in this department? John Wesley Powell. So this guy he grew up with Charles Darwin. This guy he was educated and pushed in this direction. This was all destiny for him. It wasn't an accident what his life story and how he came and where he went and what he done. It's a lot of these people are predestined because of their lineage, because of their birthright. They are born into families that are intertwined in all of this, and they get special, they get bonus, they get placed in certain places that where you aren't, because you're marginalized, you're in the caste system and you're on the bottom. How many black and brown people you know that are billionaires that you know personally, own Fortune 500 companies or really successful companies that are not stressing and just living the life? See? I'm telling you, it's deep. It gets real deep. So, let's get into it. So, this is called the Smithsonian cover-ups. So, the cover-up and allegedly suppression of archaeological evidence began in late 1881. So this is after they found all the artifacts. This is after they named all the places those names. They're like, oh shit, how are we going to stop people from finding out that we lied, that we didn't name them, that these were already named that. So they started to suppress the information. So the geologist famous for exploring the Grand Canyon appointed Cyrus Thomas as the director of the Eastern Mound Division of the Smithsonian Institution, Bureau of Ethnology. When Thomas came to the Bureau of Ethnology, he was pronounced a believer in the existence of a race of mound builders, distinct from the American Indians. However, John Wesley Powell, the director of the Bureau of Ethnology, a very sympathetic man toward the American Indians. So this guy, he liked the American Indian that had straight hair, straight black hair and no facial hair. He had a high respect and regard for them. Had lived with a peaceful Winnebago Indian of Wisconsin for many years as a youth and felt that American Indians were unfairly thought as primitive and savage. We're all thought as primitive and savage when it is the other way around, sir. The Smithsonian began to promote the idea that the Native Americans at the time, being exterminated in the Indian Wars, were descended from advanced civilizations and were worthy of respect and protection. They also began a program of suppressing any archaeological evidence that lent credence to the school of thought known as diffusionism, a school which believes that throughout history there has been widespread dispersion of culture and civilization via contact by ship and major trade routes. Yes, we have all known that we can sail around the world, and we all known that the Creator in the Bible said, I will push you to the four corners. To the four corners. The Smithsonian opted for the opposite school, known as isolationism. Isolationism holds that most civilizations are isolated from each other, and that there has been very little contact between them, which we know is not true. We know there's been contact all throughout the world, especially those that are separated by bodies of water. In this intellectual war that started in the 1880s, it was held that even contact between the civilizations of the Ohio and Mississippi valleys were rare, and certainly these civilizations did not have any contact with such advanced cultures as the Mayas, Toltecs, or Aztecs in Mexico and Central America. By old world standards, this is an extreme. I mean, that's ridiculous. Look how close they are. An even ridiculous idea considering that the river system reached to the Gulf of Mexico. You know that these rivers were highways. So these rivers that are connected there, how are you going to tell me that they didn't know each other and didn't mess with each other? And these civilizations were as close as opposite shores of the Gulf. It was like saying the cultures in the Black Sea area could not have had contact with Mediterranean. When the contents of many ancient mounds and pyramids of the Midwest were examined, it was shown that the history of the Mississippi River valleys was that of an ancient and sophisticated culture that had been in contact with Europe and other areas. So this Mississippi culture was going to Europe and coming back, just like the Mayan stories of Quetzalcoatl, or their ancient forefather or whatever. It's going back and forth. I can pull that up. I did a lesson on that. Alright. Not only that the contents of many mounds reveal burials of huge men, sometimes 7 or 8 feet tall, in full armor with swords, and sometimes huge treasures. For instance, when Spiro Mound in Oklahoma was excavated in the 1930s, a tall man in full armor was discovered along with a pot of thousands of pearls and other artifacts, the largest such treasure so far documented. The whereabouts of the man in armor is unknown, and it is quite likely that it eventually was taken to the Smithsonian. Private conversation with a well-known historical researcher who shall remain nameless, I was told that a former employee of the Smithsonian, who was dismissed for defending the view of the diffusionism in Americas, alleged that the Smithsonian at one time had actually taken a barge full of unusual artifacts into the Atlantic and dumped them in the ocean. Let me repeat this. He alleged that the Smithsonian at one time had allegedly taken a barge full of unusual artifacts that belonged to you, the Native American Negro, the Afro-Mexican, the Afro-Native, out into the Atlantic and dumped them in the ocean with a full beard. This is you. You're just destroying, hiding, suppressing all your information so you won't never know who you truly are. So my battery's gonna die soon, so I'm gonna just blow right through this, okay? So here we go. This guy is a Freemason. He's a state senator. These guys are not your friend. But this guy messed up. Well, see, he was talking. See, let me read it. Alabama is currently going through a major federal corruption trial regarding alleged bribes offered to state legislators by representatives of the state gambling industry. The overall issue of gambling in the state is an ongoing political battle. The state has dog tracks and bingo halls, but the focus of late has been the question of electronic gaming machines. Part of the investigation was conducted by witness wearing wires, including State Senator Scott Beeson. Transcripts of Beeson's wiretapes became issued this week. So this guy Beeson was the mole. He was the guy that they flipped, and he was ratting and catching these criminals with the wire. He was working for the Popo, and when he was working for the Popo, he made a remark about the Negro, American Negro with full beard and afro hair, and even all of them, even the other Negroes, they're Canaanites. That he made a reference to them being the Aboriginals, and he, and he got busted in this case. He got busted by saying that. That came out and was said to light. He goes, in another conversation, Beeson and others are discussing the distressed economy in Greene County. He goes, that's all Indians. They're Aborigines, but they're not Indians. So he's trying to say you guys are the Indians, man. You guys are the Aborigines, not the whole Indians, but you guys are the hey yeah. You guys are the Hebrew Indians or Canaanite Indians. You guys are not African slave ships. You never came on African slave ships. They came here and picked your ass up. They picked your ass up and took your ass to Europe. Took your ass all over the world, man. Look, Dumb Diversus by there's a Papal Bull issued on June 18, 1452 by Pope Nicholas. This is the contents of it. We grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents, with our apostolic authority, the Paulistic authority, Paul doctrine, full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, and subjugate the Saracens and pagans, and any other unbelievers and enemies of Christ, not the Creator. They didn't say enemies of the Creator, Christ, wherever they may be, as well as their kingdoms. So you had kingdoms, and I'll show you you had kingdoms. I got many books that'll show you there was kingdoms down here that blew the minds of these Europeans when they came, the colonizers. Duchies. Who's the duchies? Who's the, throughout history? Edom. Edom is the duchies. Duchess and the duchies, the lords. So they said, come here, conquer the Israelites, conquer the Edomites. It says counties, principalities, and other properties, and reduce their persons into perpetual servitude. So we're to marginalize and subjugate these people. And what does that mean? That means hold you at the bottom. Are you rich? Are you rich? No. Do you own a huge company, or are you doing really well? No. This is what happened. They enslaved you, and this guy messed up, and it came out. You can look this up, but it has a whole bit over here. It tells you everything, man. He got busted, and it wasn't even about the Aborigines, but that came out. The truth comes out. So here we go. So bring us back to John Wesley Powell. Let's end this off on him. Well, let's end him up right here. So it's saying that this says that he was a British secret agent. Okay. He was a British secret agent, and he was sent here. And let me get what the story is. So James White was the first man to traverse the Grand Canyon, 1837 and 1917 he lived. But yet, we're told that John Powell was the first one. But this is saying different. Yeah, he is never mentioned before Powell, but here Powell. John Wesley Powell and his team are credited with being the first men to explore the Grand Canyon. Powell could not go alone and claim all the credit because he took the bullet in the arm during the Civil War. and was one-armed. In that instance, the rebel would have done the Union a favor if he was more accurate. In 1909, Congress erected a monument to John Wesley Powell, calling him the first explorer of the canyon. Technically, Congress was correct because White was not an explorer, but a man fleeing for his life. In 1909, many people still knew about the prior voyage of White. So everybody knew, yet they still tell lies. That's what they do. They tell you what they want you to hear, not what the truth is. In May 1869, John Wesley Powell left Green River Station, Wyoming, with 10 men. The goal of the Colorado River exploring expedition was to be the first men to explore the entire length of the Grand Canyon. Financing came from British-owned Smithsonian Institution. So this is it right here. He was on the track. He was on the fast track to become the head guy at the Smithsonian, because he was working with the British who owned the Smithsonian, who was trying to stop this information from coming to light about who we truly are. Who we truly are. It's all there. You just have to read between the lines sometimes. The exhausted and half-starved men finally emerged from the canyon in 1869. Powell was hailed as a national hero and the conqueror of the Colorado. Powell was not anxious to share the limelight with other men, so they were quickly forgotten. So all the other guys with him were gone, were forgotten. John Wesley Powell was named after John Wesley. John Wesley was named after famous English evangelist John Wesley. John Wesley was an Anglican cleric and Christian theologian. Wesley is largely credited, along with his brother Charles, as founding the Methodist movement. Methodists, which began when they took to open-air preaching in a similar manner to George Whitefield. In contrast to Whitefield Calvinism, Wesley embraced the Arminian doctrines that were dominant in the 18th century Church of England. So he was a church person, but he wasn't for the Israelites. He wasn't for the Old Testament. He was one of them who bind it together to hide who you truly are and wanted to take your covenant. Along with his brothers Charles, John Wesley was famous in the British North American colonies. These guys were illuminated. They were hierarchy. John and Charles were invited to George Oglethorpe to help him establish Christianity in a new colony in Georgia. They are the colonizers, the Christians, the Mormons who brought these diseases and God. In Hawaii, they say that when everybody was getting sick, the Mormons said, throw away the pills, throw away your medication, and just pray. And they died. Thousands and thousands and thousands died. I'm sure this happened everywhere. Because we knew about the Bible, so we gravitated towards what they were saying, even though we didn't know that it was corrupted. But ours were corrupted as well. So we didn't know what it truly was. Only today, now we can piece it all together. Joseph and Mary were parents of John Wesley Powell. Joseph grew up in Shrewsbury, England, and was the contemporary of Charles Darwin. Joseph and Mary were married in Birmingham, England. Both were